This is the Conduit. I am so glad that you can join us. You know what time it is. It is May. And if it is May 28th, that must mean that it is our podcast. It is the ripple effect. I wish I had a sound effect for the ripple effect. I don't. We're going to work on that. That would be fantastic. But we have a really fantastic show for you today. We have a guest, a very special guest. And this is a very important show that we're going to get into. But before we do that, we do want to talk and introduce the people that make this happen from the county. And normally we would have two folks with us today, but right now we have one, the very distinguished Laura Hyde. Laura, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, but I don't feel too distinguished.
Very distinguished, very special. Makes a lot happen here in the county, in the world of prevention. We cannot say enough about how important prevention is. It is very unheralded. It is so tremendously important. And having these different folks come on to talk about just how important prevention is really is amazing. And I appreciate the work that you and Deanne and really that is the department, which people don't know, right? It's two people that operate like 50, but there are so many different things that you do, bringing many different people together from different sectors to get information out there and share and educate the community. And I just want to commend you and give you your flowers.
No, thank you.
All right. Well, and with that said, we're going to jump right into it. And like I said, we have a very special guest today. I'm going to go ahead and introduce her. And I did not get a chance to figure out how to pronounce her last name. So I'm going to give it a stab. And if I get it wrong, you go ahead and correct me. But it is Brittany Arbo.
Nailed it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, snap. Hey, there you go. All right. So let's go ahead and throw her on the camera. This is Brittany Arbo, everyone. And she is from Charlie Health. And I'm going to go ahead and read her bio. And she is a local clinical outreach manager for Charlie Health, which is a mental health organization that provides virtual intensive outpatient therapy programs. They treat a variety of mental health conditions, substance use disorders, and eating disorders for clients ages 8 to 64 years of age using trauma-informed, evidence-based, and individualized treatment. Her personal experience with her own mental health journey and supporting family members with substance use disorders inspired her to work in the mental health field, supporting her local community. So we're going to get to know her a little bit. We're going to get to know a lot about Charlie Health and just how both of those things can be very useful to you. So one, thank you so much for coming on today and giving us some of your time.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are amazing, and I'm so inspired by what you do, so I'm just really grateful to be here.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove myself from the camera. I will be the disembodied voice, and from now on, you will just hear from, you'll hear from all three of us, but you'll just see the two of them, right? You don't want to see me.
No pressure.
All right, no pressure. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to get right into our first question here. And there we go. Well, we'll go ahead and do this now because it's on there. We want to, and we are going to plug this because this is a big deal, okay? Now, our final show in the very first half of the year in June, this crescendo, if you will, this cornucopia is going to be a stronger together, a community conversation on prevention. It's going to be at Kitsap County Fairgrounds, and this is going to be a huge experience. A panel of experts are going to come together, and we're going to have a prevention podcast out at Eagle's Nest at 1200 Northwest Fairgrounds Road in Bremerton, 98311. I need you to put this on your calendars. This is June 26th. Okay, this is a Friday, everyone. This is 12:30 p.m. So again, close your office. All right, we are going to feed you. We are going to feed you a lot of food. I don't mean a little food. I'm not talking about cheese and crackers. I'm talking about a full spread. I'm talking about you're not going to want to eat dinner that night. That's how much we're going to feed you. All right, you're going to be able to collaborate. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to get resources. This is going to be a very special event. So please, 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 if you want more information, you can go ahead and give me a call, 360-990-6387. But please put that date on your calendar. That is Friday, June 26th. And that event is going to be at 12:30. We'd like you to come at 12 because we're going to promptly start eating at 12:30. And it will be a panel of speakers. And we're going to have a good time. Okay, so please put that on your calendar. And that will be great. Thank you so much for that. And now, if you will kindly take that off.
I think I can do it. Hang on.
I know you can. I got it. I'll go ahead and do it. All right. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump into our first question here. And our first question is, can you share a moment or experience that made you realize how important mental health is for young people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are a lot of moments that come to mind. So it was really hard to pick just one, even when I was younger than I am today. I had my own mental health struggles. But when my younger cousin, she's only a couple years younger than me, when she was just 20 years old, she had an overdose. And she nearly died. And she was, thankfully, emergency services got to her in time, and she was resuscitated, but she is now disabled for the rest of her life. She needs constant support and care. And I just have always thought to myself, this is something that could have been avoided if she had the care that she needed. She has a very loving family, is very involved, but she also has a lot of trauma and mental health concerns that stem from that. And I think that there's so much of this in our community with young people, especially the ones who it appears like everything is going well and we don't have anything to be concerned about. And I think that, you know, that just really, that instance always sticks out in my brain when I'm doing this work is, you know, what could I have done, or what could a program like ours have done for my cousin before something really tragic happened. So we are very grateful and thankful that she's still with us, but still a tragedy that could have been avoided.
Laura, thank you for that story. Laura, do you have a story that, or a moment or experience that made you realize how important it was for young people?
Oh, yeah. My younger sister had bipolar disorder, and we didn't know. And so we struggled with that as a family. She struggled with that as a human being. It led her down a path to drugs and alcohol and risky behavior. And she was very difficult to be with sometimes. But she was a real sweetheart a lot of the time. So yeah, I think if we had recognized it and got her the care that she needed, she would be with us today. But she is not.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Is that what got you into prevention work?
Yeah, one of the reasons. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Thank you for that. Let us move on to the second question. I don't want to sit with that too long. How does taking care of your mental health actually affect your everyday life, like school, friendships, or motivation?
Yeah, I think that I just want to first point out that it can be really difficult to talk about mental health. It can feel uncomfortable and awkward or hard, especially for young people, despite how far we've come, you know, as far as progress in speaking about mental health. So I think that it's really important to understand that mental wellness is a spectrum, just like physical wellness is a spectrum. And we need different support for our mental wellness in different seasons of our life. Sometimes we're going to need more support. Sometimes there are going to be things going on in our lives that are overwhelming, and we are just going to need more people wrapped around us to support us. And I think that the most important thing that anyone can do for their mental health is focus on connecting with people in the community. That could be your friends, but it could also be your neighbors. It could be your family members. It could be your coach. It could be your teacher. It could be, really anyone that's a trusted person. But that connection is so pivotal in our mental wellness. And we talk a lot about it at Charlie Health. As far as, our programming goes, it's a main focus of our program. But I think that when, we're really taking care of our mental health and we feel like we're in a good place, that's when we feel at our best, right? I mean, it's when we feel the most productive. It's when we feel the most connected to people. It's when we feel, like we get the most enjoyment out of life. And we all want to be there, of course. But we are also all going to go through phases where that's a little harder to reach. So it's important to stay connected and get support when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Laura, did you want to chime in there?
Well, I think you covered that. Yeah, connection is super important. What makes us human, talking and sharing and growing and living together is just a beautiful thing. And when you become isolated and alone, things just don't look good sometimes. And yeah, you definitely need to reach out and get some help.
Yeah, isolation, I think, is the number one sign when you're thinking about people that you care about, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you talk about, a lot of people say, I didn't see the signs that my loved one or the person that I care about was struggling. And I think that tends to be the first thing, is isolation. Mm-hmm. If they have this change in behavior and they start isolating from the people or the activities or things that they used to find joy in, that can be a huge sign that something is wrong. And that's where I think that it's all of our responsibilities as a community to check in with that person and just to make sure we're checking in with people. I think we should check in with people regardless of what's going on. It's always great to check in on your friends and family and show that you care about them. But when you start to see those signs, trust your gut, check in with them, and, make sure that there's nothing you could do to support.
Yeah, I have a feeling, I was saying that it doesn't take a lot of effort to just ask someone how they're doing in earnest and give yourself the space to actually hear it.
Yeah.
Because it's oftentimes we say, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And the intent is, hey, I'm doing okay. And you
it's just like that
right?
Classic interaction that you have with the barista or something, right? Yeah. How's your day? Good. How's yours? Good. Okay, great. Bye. That's.
But even with the barista, and for me, I use the example of the checker at the grocery store, right? And I can see the interaction that they just had with someone was really negative, or two people, in front. And so when I get there, it's like, hang in there. How you doing? It's like, oh, I've got 2 more hours. It's like, all right, you got this. What are you going to do when you get off? And so we'll just have that dialogue. And I know that it helped, right? And
that moment can be huge.
Yeah. And what did that cost you, right? And we have so much power, and we can use it in such a positive way, and just change their whole day. Yeah. You knew that they had this negative experience. You watched it play out in front of you, and you were able to kind of just change their trajectory of that day. Yeah. And maybe you were having a negative day, and you're impatient, you're in a rush, and you were going to be that next person to just pile on, and be like, you know what, I don't need to pile on. I just saw what you were going through, and you could take that, and you and I were talking earlier about transferable skills, right? You could take that and then use that with your friends and family, and just be a little bit more aware of what they may be going through.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to get into is up until last month, because you came in to look and kind of see
Yeah.
what you would get into, I never heard of Charlie Health.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is Charlie Health? What is it?
Yes, Charlie Health is a virtual intensive outpatient program. So when we're looking at the continuum of care for mental health, the two options that most people are most familiar with are outpatient therapy, which would be what you think of when you think of therapy. One-on-one session with a therapist, usually it's once a week or once every 2 weeks, could be once a month. And then on the other side of that, you have inpatient care, which is 24/7 care. Obviously, these inpatient care centers are reserved for people who are in mental health crises. Just below that, you have residential care, partial hospitalization programs, etc. So these are sort of the options that you have. Many people do not know about intensive outpatient programs, and they do sit in the center of that continuum of care. So we are most appropriate for someone who needs more support than just weekly therapy. Maybe it's someone who is already getting weekly therapy and it's just not quite enough. And then we're also a great option for someone who is discharging from a higher level of care. If you think about, coming off of 24/7 care and going straight into the opposite end of the spectrum, being just weekly outpatient therapy, that can be sort of jarring to go from the highest level of support you can possibly get to the lowest level of support, aside from not getting any support at all, of course. So we can be a great transitional program for someone. Intensive outpatient programs combine group therapy, individual therapy, family therapy. We also at Charlie Health offer psychiatry, and this is all done virtually. So it is about 10 to 12 hours a week of support for an IOP. That's intensive.
Can I slow you down just a
yes,
little bit?
Sorry, I get so excited when I talk about what we do.
Only because for some of us, we may not know what is psychiatry, right? It's like psychiatry and
absolutely.
IOP and there's a lot of
so
acronyms.
many words.
So
Yep.
can you unpack some of that? We've got some time.
Yeah.
And, you talk about family and individual.
Yes.
Let's just sit with that a little bit. What are the ages like?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's get in the weeds.
Great questions.
All
Great
right,
questions. Okay. Let me start chipping away at these. So, Charlie Health, we support kids, teens, and adults. We support kids as young as 8, and we support adults as old as 64. So our age range 8 to 64, but the programming would be different for kids, teens, and adults, obviously. So let me quickly answer your question about psychiatry, because that one's a short answer. Psychiatry is really focused on medication management. So it is going to be an optional part of our program. And I think it's an optional part of anyone's mental wellness journey, right? For some people, medication can be hugely impactful. I mean, we're talking about certain mental health conditions. We're talking about chemical imbalances in the brain. So medications can be an amazing option for people. I think that there's still so much stigma around psychiatric medication, and it can really be life-changing for a lot of people. So that's the psychiatry piece. We also call it medication management for that clarity.
We're talking about for opiate addiction, meth, fentanyl, things like that.
Great question. We're talking about the spectrum of mental health conditions. So we everything from antidepressants to support with antipsychotics if needed, and down the line. At Charlie Health in Washington State right now, we do not offer what's called medication-assisted treatment, which is what you mentioned with opiate support. So if you're familiar with things like Suboxone or methadone, we do not prescribe those in Washington State at this time. We do work with a lot of amazing medication-assisted treatment centers that do provide those services. And so by partnering and coordinating care in that way, we can make sure that the client is supported in all directions. So they're still receiving that care. And, maybe in the future that might be something that we can do in Washington State. But right now, our medication options do not include that. The other thing that Charlie Health specifically is not prescribing in Washington State right now is stimulants. And there's just a lot of legalities around that, and just making sure that, for clients who are receiving or who are taking stimulants, it's important for them to be seen in person to make sure that things like blood pressure are safe, and that they're medically healthy. So for that reason, we're not prescribing stimulants either.
And stimulants are like what, like
Like
Adderall and
ADHD,
Ritalin?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
All right.
ADHD medication typically is what stimulants are used for.
Gotcha. And so, but at Charlie Health, you will partner with an agency that does.
Exactly.
And so you can provide the IOP portion of it.
Exactly.
And they will provide what was the term?
The medication management.
Management piece. And then together, they will get the full scope of services needed.
Yeah, we like to call our IOP like the therapeutic scaffolding that supports the entire mental wellness journey. We can offer psychiatry and medication management for people that, it makes sense to go through our program, but we also have so many local partners that can provide those services as well. And our program is typically 8 to 12 weeks on average. So we are a temporary program. The idea is that IOP is, which stands for Intensive Outpatient Program.
Thank you.
For
Awesome. There you go. I love it.
I am going to say IOP in the future. It's so much shorter and faster. But in IOP, the idea is that we're condensing years of therapy into this short period of time, into just a couple of months.
Okay.
So there's a lot of skill building. There's a lot of skill building, so that when these feelings and emotions come up in the future, you have a toolbox to handle that. And so IOP is not meant to be a long-term program. It's meant to be a supportive intervention so that folks can eventually transition into an outpatient level of care when it's most supportive for them.
Could it be extended if needed?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We have this thing that we always talk about at Charlie Health, and I know a lot of other providers in the community are doing this as well, and that's meeting people where they are. I think that it's so important with all aspects of healthcare to do this, but in the mental health field especially, because there's so much stigma and because it's so complex, to just really meet people where they are. So, when we're talking about our addiction treatment, for example, we have options for people who are looking to reduce their substance use, or for those who are looking to stop using substances entirely. I think it's really important, first of all, to have those groups separated so that they can have the most effective conversations and journey and support within their community, within that group. But it's also important to know that if someone isn't ready to make that jump into completely stopping their substance use, that there's still treatment for them. That we're not saying, well, if you don't want to stop, then we can't treat you. It's so important to still provide those people support, and to know that that's still such a positive change in their life. So I may have gotten a bit off track.
No,
but
that's okay.
No,
Okay.
that was great.
Okay.
Did you have something that you want to jump in? Because I still have more questions.
That's
So.
for expertise.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah.
So, we're in the weeds a little bit, but I want to stay there because I am a little curious as to folks that aren't ready and they are still using. How, just quickly, how does that look different from those that are trying to be in full recovery versus I'm not quite ready to stop, but I'm receiving services and I'm going through programming? Like, how does that?
Yeah. Great question. I want to first say that I am not a clinician. So I'm just going to speak from, my knowledge base and not dive too much into the clinical weeds of things. But with that being said, I think it's really about, the biggest part of our program is the groups. We talked about connection a lot. That group connection is pivotal in the success of our program. And when we talk about, it's like the opposite of isolation, right? It's finding a community. It's finding a group of people that you can sort of look around the room and say, you get me. And so that's part of why those groups are separate, because we really want to focus on, what are our goals? And we want it to be a common goal. So that's part of it. Another part of it is, part of the curriculum is like overdose prevention training, or education might be a better word for that. Part of both programs. So we're still looking at, how to prevent emergencies, and how to support people with whatever their goals happen to be. But other than that, I think it really is dependent on the person and what their individual goals are. Part of our program is working with an individual therapist. So that individual therapist will sit down with a client on a weekly basis, and they'll talk about what the goals are and have been, and how are we working towards achieving those goals. So it's going to be a unique experience for every single person. There's not really one cut and dry answer to that. But really the goal is, I'm saying the word goal a lot. The objective is to make sure that the common goal amongst the group is the same and that we're all working in that same direction.
So I'll ask you two more questions and then we'll get back to our other questions. So one, how long has Charlie Health been around operating in Washington State?
Great question. We were founded in 2020, which makes people sort of think, oh, virtual because of COVID. But that's not actually the case. We are virtual for the purpose of removing barriers to care. So just a coincidence that happened. But we're talking about, again, intensive outpatient IOP, 10 to 12 hours a week of support. It's a lot, especially if someone is working full time or in school, has kids, has, whatever else going on in their life, to try to travel and commute to an in-person IOP, especially in areas like Kitsap where the options are severely limited for these types of programs. It can be impossible, frankly, for some people, and highly disruptive to others' lives. So our goal is to be as non-disruptive as possible. So when a client comes to us, one of the first things that we'll talk about when we're getting them admitted to our program is the schedule. And we try to find a schedule that's going to work for them. After that, we're going to try to find a group that's going to be the best fit for them. So what is the clinical modality or the type of treatment that we're using to support them during their program? And then after that, we match them with a primary therapist. We have lots of specialties amongst our primary therapists, hundreds of therapists. So we can get a lot more specific with how we treat people, and again, about meeting people where they're at. So we've been in Washington. I believe actually 2021 is when we first started supporting Washington. We were founded in Montana, started there and have expanded since, and now we're in 40 states.
In 40 states?
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. So we have a question in the chat. This one comes from Amanda, so shout out to her. How long does it take to start care, and how big are the groups?
Amanda, great questions. You took the words right out of my brain. How long does it take to start care? This is something that we're really, really proud of at Charlie Health. We have no wait lists. Never have, never will. We can get folks into care within 24 to 48 hours, just depending on their verification of benefits. To that point, we do take Medicaid. We do take TRICARE. We take almost all commercial plans, insurance plans. So a lot of access there. So the answer to that question is, depending on your availability, it can be really quick. And, there are some things that might delay care, but generally speaking, for most people, it's a very quick process. Second question, how big are the groups? On average, 6 to 8 people. We do try to keep them pretty small. And when we're looking at those groups, we try to curate them to get a group of people together who are going to be, first of all, we're going to look at the age. So there are age ranges for our groups. And then after that, we're going to look at, again, how are we treating them? So does this group kind of have a common goal and a common reason why they're with Charlie Health? And then we also have some lived experience groups. So first and foremost, we're going to look at what makes the most sense clinically for that person. But after that, we have things like BIPOC groups, LGBTQIA plus groups. We have groups that are specific to addiction. So we treat substance use and also process addictions. We have a maternal mental health program. We have, what else? Oh, we have neurodivergent programming. We have male and female trauma. So lots of different specific cohorts as well. And, again, depending on kind of how that initial appointment goes with one of our admissions therapists, we'll determine the best path for that person that fits in their schedule to get them the best support. And again, I'm going to probably repeat this too many times, but just try to meet everyone where they're at as best we can.
All right, that's awesome. The other question before we get back to our regular questions: does drug court and 8 other agencies accept Charlie Health as an approved IOP?
That's a great question. It is a case-by-case basis. So what I would say is if this is a situation where there is a justice component, I would always get in touch with our program. And at the end, I'll provide my contact information, or we'll somehow get my contact information out there. So
Oh no, we're going to get it out there today.
Perfect,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So you guys can always contact me with questions, specific questions, but it is going to be a case-by-case basis, and we will get the court approval on an individualized circumstances. So, but we do work with the justice system really closely. So
Nice. All right. So thank you for that. I know it was a rapid fire. Like
I love it.
before that, you said bring it on. So I was like, I'm gonna bring it on.
I was a college softball player, so I'm like really competitive. So these situations, I think that flips that switch. And I'm
It's good.
ready to
Okay.
go.
Good. All right. So if you're just joining us today, we are having a conversation with Charlie Health's own Brittany Arbo. And this is a very powerful conversation. And this is a great way if you did not have access to care. This is a virtual option for you. So please, please, please share this information. Listen to this information. This is definitely probably going to be useful for you and someone you know for sure. All right. So our next question is, how can mental health struggles make someone more vulnerable to substance use?
Laura, do you want to take that first, or?
Well, sure. I think when you're struggling with depression or other forms of mental health, you are more likely to reach out and try to find things that alleviate that pain and that stress. And substances are definitely one of the things that is very habit forming. And it's very easy to become addicted. And just even trying it once, if it's the wrong drug, it can really just flip that switch of addiction, and there you are.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Definitely want you to weigh in on that. You don't,
Yeah.
You don't get away clean. You gotta answer the question.
Well, I agree with everything that Laura said. And I think that it's substances are one of many ways that we look to sort of escape our situation. When we're struggling and we don't have the tools to deal with these big emotions or these really stressful times in our life in healthy ways, in supportive ways, drugs, alcohol, substances, screens, other sort of process addictions like gambling. These things are ways that our brain seeks to sort of distract us from what's actually going on, because these things are big things, and they can be really, really hard to deal with, especially if you don't have support or know where to start. So I think that when we're talking about substance use, mental health is so closely intertwined that at Charlie Health, that's why I think our substance use programming can be so effective, because we started out as a mental health program, and we've sort of expanded into addiction and eating disorders. And when we're addressing the mental health at its core, while also addressing the substance use problem, we're really trying to get that like whole person approach, which I think is so important because they're just so intertwined.
Well, and you have folks that are trying to reduce, fear or, sadness, dealing with any kind of emotional pain.
Yeah.
Sleep deprivation, trying to escape traumatic experiences. Speaking from personal experiences, because I've faced a lot of different things, and my way of dealing with those things is just being a workaholic, and so, but that doesn't work for everyone, and that's also not very healthy, right? And it kind of comes with its own things. So you do need to find some different outlets for that. So, which leads me into my next question, which is, what are some healthy ways to deal with stress, anxiety, and really big emotions?
there are so many ways to support yourself and to emotionally regulate when these big emotions are happening. I'm always going to say the number one thing. Again, I'm gonna be a little bit of a broken record, but connection. Reach out, talk to someone. It is so huge. I think when we talk about, some folks are not talkers. As you all can tell, I am a talker. So for me, it comes naturally. But for those people who aren't talkers, finding ways to do activities with people that are in your circle and in your community, whether that's getting involved in a club or a sport or a community organization, getting involved in a coalition, something you care about. These types of things are ways to form that connection. And so when these big feelings and emotions come up, we have people to reach out to. We have people in our corner to connect with. Obviously, if you really need support, speaking with a professional is so important. Mindfulness and yoga and exercise and all of these things can be really helpful, but sometimes that's just not enough. And I think that's the point where we need to sort of be courageous and say, I need to take the next step and I need more support than I'm getting.
So can I ask you about connection? So, we're in a time now, unfortunately, COVID, and Charlie Health, it was serendipitous, our favorite word,
yeah.
Right? On how it came to be. COVID shut, people down, and it created isolation. Smartphones created isolation.
Yeah.
So all of these things all happening at the same time. Pokemon Go, right? And it's a different kind of connection, but then we've lost this human connection. And we were talking before the show with some folks, and we're like, even when we're going out and we're dining, we all have our smartphones, and while you're looking to see what you're ordering, I'm still on my phone, and we're still disconnected, although we're still sitting together.
Yeah.
Are there any recommendations or ideas on how someone who is really fearful of connecting, what would be the first steps of connection, or those things that would be talked about in IOP?
Yeah, that's a great question. Connection is one of those things that I think happens even when we're resistant to it, if we're in the right circumstances. And I think a group therapy session, I know that causes a lot of people anxiety. I totally get that. And I think one of the things that I think about myself, growing up in a smaller area in Washington, I would have been mortified to go to group therapy and maybe run into someone that I was going to see at the grocery store the next day. So that's one of those things where, being a virtual program, we sort of have that benefit as far as, bringing people together that don't all live in the same area, and creating this sense of connection without that feeling of like, I don't feel emotionally safe to be vulnerable. So that's one of the things that I love about our groups. As far as just like the smartphones and technology and all these things, I think you make a great point. There's this juxtaposition between the fact that we're more connected to each other than we've ever been before. It's so easy to contact someone these days. Like, obviously decades ago, it wasn't the way that it is now. And especially for young people, I think that there's this sense of like, I'm so connected to everyone, but also I'm so isolated because of the way that social media works and the way that we're so connected. It's like almost like an illusion. We're connected, but we're really not. And I think that that's where community is so important, and finding your community, whatever that is. It can be a virtual community. Virtual communities can be amazing, but it can also be something in your organization, again, or in your local area, like getting involved in a club or a sport or a coalition. I know I said this already, but like, it's scary, but it will add so much value to your life and support your mental wellness in ways that you wouldn't even maybe recognize right off the top.
Yeah, just think of, the things that we used to have that brought us together that are gone. Like bowling alleys and skating rinks, and
Mhm.
just especially in
Yeah.
Bremerton, just watching them close one by one.
Yeah.
And it's like, so where do people go and congregate? Or, folks going to the club and they don't dance, right? And everyone's got a smartphone. So I don't want to go out and dance and be silly because that's going to be on
Someone's
Instagram.
gonna record it.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not
Mhm.
going to do that. So it's this really weird space that we're in.
Mhm.
And it's terrifying. But did you want to add anything to that? Just kind of a really weird time that we're in.
It is, yes, most definitely a weird time. Um, yeah, it's hard to find a group of people that you can connect with. I think volunteering is a wonderful opportunity
Oh, I
to
love that.
do good in the world, but also connect with others. That's one of the things that my family's always been involved with is volunteering and doing good for the world. But scientifically, I mean, it releases endorphins
Mhm.
in your body and serotonins and makes you feel better and also form connections with people over an activity where it's easier to talk when you're doing something quite often.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right. Well, with that, how can young people help change the way mental health is discussed in their schools and communities?
Great question. I want to acknowledge the fact that from my vantage point, the younger generations have already made so much progress in this. I think mental health is talked about now more than ever before.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And I think for the most part, it's a positive thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely, you see a lot more young people talking about their experiences with therapy and their experiences with their mental health journey, which is huge because, when I was a kid, that would have been, a lot of people might have found that shameful. And it's not. Of course it's not. But I think that the number one thing is just to start talking about it. Be the person who checks in on your friends and asks the question, how are you feeling mentally, emotionally? Normalize having those conversations. If you are receiving support, share that with your friends. I think that the more that we are open about our own experiences within our own comfort level, we're just all going to work together to reduce the stigma. And I think that that's, the direction we're headed in for sure, because you do see some positive stuff on social media. But I think it's important also to, caution against diagnosing yourself based off of something you've seen on social media or using an AI program like ChatGPT to try to diagnose a mental health condition. I could talk for way too long about that. I'm not going to get into it, but I just want to caution against that as well, because I think that to your point, with all this technology that we have, it's so easy to go to these programs and there's this, sense of trust, but it's so important to speak with someone who's qualified and a professional and, not diagnose yourself or attempt to diagnose your friends or your family members, but just be there to listen and support and, validate what they're going through and know when to help them or yourself seek more help and more support.
All right, for sure. Yeah, that one is definitely important. We have a question that is a follow-up from the gaming channel. Is it normal to not always understand your own emotions?
Absolutely. When I started therapy, one of the first things that my therapist talked about was this thing called the feelings wheel, or sometimes called an emotion wheel. And definitely something worth looking up, even just if you're curious. But it is one of those things that is so common now that we, and I'm, always, I'm sure, emotions are complicated. And when they are big, they impact how we react and how we think. And I think that there's this, one of the most impactful things that I learned in therapy was a thought is not a fact. I think disconnecting from your own thoughts. Yeah, disconnecting from your own thoughts. Thoughts are just thoughts. And feelings are just feelings. And they deserve to be, they should be validated and they should be addressed and all of these things. But it's completely normal to not always understand your own emotions. But I think it is so worthwhile to make the effort and to take the time to better understand yourself so that you can work towards being able to recognize your emotions. I think that is the goal and the path is to, we're all trying to get there to the point to where we do, but completely normal to not always understand them. Worthwhile pursuit to better understand yourself.
I love that. Well, thank you for that answer, and I'm sure that was very helpful to the person in the chat. Please keep your questions coming. Those are great questions that are coming in the chat. We love them. This is how you get empowered, and we like that. Where can listeners go if they need support or they want to learn more? And I do have your information up, so for those that are listening, I'm going to go ahead and read that out. Her email is Brittany.Arbo, that is BRITTANY .ARBO at Charlie Health, CharlieHealth.com. And the phone number is 253-973-5597. And she is a community mental health advocate. And I'll let you take it from there. So how can people get information to get help?
First, I just want to say, as it relates to my information, that's my work cell phone number, so you can text me at that number too, if that's helpful. I think there are a lot of community organizations that can be great places to go for support. Laura, I don't know if you guys are, I'm assuming people can contact you if they need support. Is that right?
Yeah, we're not direct service providers, but we certainly are a great referral source.
Connections. Yeah, exactly. And I think finding those organizations in the community is so huge. What you guys do is so important, because one of the biggest things that I hear is I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And it can be, especially when you're going through a mental health situation, when you're trying to address your mental health, it can be so overwhelming to try to sift through all the resources and to find the right one for you. So community organizations, there's an organization that I'll plug really quickly. I love them so much. It's called Kids Mental Health Washington. So this is specifically for youth, but they are same thing. They're not a service provider, but they are a great community connector. And of course, if you feel like intensive outpatient is the right fit for you, Charlie Health is obviously a great place to go. If we aren't the best fit for someone, we will always recommend alternative options. So we won't leave anyone high and dry. We'll make sure that they have a backup option to go to. But if, intensive services are needed, we can be a great place to start. If you are looking for outpatient therapy, we do not provide that at this time. There are so many amazing therapists out there, and many that are accepting new clients. I know it feels like, nobody's accepting new clients right now, but there are many options. So feel free to reach out to me directly for any suggestions on that. But community organizations is always going to be my first thing, because they are the most plugged in and the most aware.
All right. And I think Mr. McGrew in the chat, I think you were answering that at the same time. And I'm just going to state it. Are there resources or education available for those who care for or are in the orbit of those who suffer from mental illness? I think that's what you were answering just then.
Yeah.
And then Amanda asked, how can young people help change the way mental health is talked about in their schools or community? I asked that question. I think we were just talking about that one. We've got a couple more questions before we wrap. But I do want to let people know that the website is here for Charlie Health. So don't forget, you can get information here. This is the correct website, correct?
CharlieHealth.com. Yep.
That's so if you want to look for information, it is there. Okay. So you have that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that there. And then we're going to go in here. Man, this one was a good one today. They're all good, but I do like some. We all have our favorites. You're not supposed to have favorite children, are you?
Are you saying I'm your favorite?
Yeah. Yes.
Stop it.
But I do like chocolate, though. So that helps. All right, everyone. I also do want to share with you, it is coming up, so you do not want to miss it. Juneteenth is June 13th. This is the 24th annual Juneteenth festival here in Kitsap County. This is one of the three oldest Juneteenth celebrations here in Kitsap County. It is not too late to get your booth. All you need to do is reach out. June 13th is a Saturday. The People's March starts at 10 a.m. at the Norm Dix Government Center on 5th Street on the stairs. The Freedom Festival will be held at 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Evergreen Rotary Park in Bremerton. We ask that all vendors arrive between 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and begin setup and be fully set up by 10:45 a.m. Free food is provided. The founders, back 24 years ago, that was very important to them. So please bring the kids, bring everyone. This is a great experience. There are still applications open, and they will be accepted until the close of business on June 5th. Below are all the fees. If you have any questions, you can contact Shay Peters at the JuneteenthKitsap at gmail.com or 360-552-5295 for more information. All right. And then you can submit your payments to G2G2, which is us, at PO Box 2828 at Bremerton 98310, or PayPal. Follow that information as such. We have 41 vendors so far. Last year we had 55. So spots are filling up quickly, but this is going to be a good one. And next year, oh my goodness, 25 years. It's going to be a big deal. Sorry, my voice is going. So we're going to continue on now. So we have a few more questions to get to here. And our next question. All right. Why do you think conversations about mental health can feel awkward or hard, especially for kids and teens?
This is a great question. Again, I want to acknowledge that we've come a long way in the conversations being had about mental health and the reduction in stigma. Even if you spend a little bit of time on social media, you'll see young people talking about how they're in therapy and how they're receiving mental health help. Again, something that I do not think would have been happening decades ago. So progress has been made. I think that that's really important to acknowledge. And I feel really proud of the younger generations for, their bravery and their courage and all of those things. Despite that, there is still a lot of stigma around seeking care for mental health. I think that there is this feeling of, weakness that's specifically associated with mental health. And the way that I always, have these conversations with other people is, if you broke your leg, you wouldn't feel weak for going to the doctor to get treatment for a broken leg. It should be no different from mental health care. There is no shame in seeking support. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I think that, taking that first step is so hard. But once you do and you start to see the changes, I hear a lot of people say things like, why did I wait so long to do this? But those conversations at first can be hard. They can be emotionally charged. We feel like we're going to be judged by our friends and family, or I think especially young people feel like they're going to be a burden to their family or to their friends for needing help. And that's just not the case. And I think we just have to keep having the conversations and encouraging the conversations, and most importantly, being ready to listen when those conversations are being had, and being ready to, be there for our people. So hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. Would you like to chime in on that one?
Well, I just think for my generation, there really wasn't mental health support. It was very much a personality issue. If you were mean, you were a mean person. If you were cranky, you were a cranky person. If you were sad, you were a sad person. Mm-hmm. There was just not therapy available. The piece about talking about mental health and and receiving mental health services is that we've been able to separate and just even talk about mental health, but separate that from the personality, from the person. So you can be a good person and still seek care and receive care. And you can know people that are in therapy or seeing a counselor. It's much more prevalent. And most people know somebody who's seeing a counselor. Most of the time they know that. But with my generation, that just didn't happen.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Well, what would you say to your younger self about mental health?
Oh, hey, mental health exists.
Would you believe your younger self?
Yeah.
Or would your younger self believe you?
Yeah, you can improve it. It's a health situation. It's not a personality deficit. So
Well,
I think that would have made us a lot happier when I was a kid.
yeah.
My sister a lot happier.
What would you say to your younger self?
I would say it's okay to not be okay.
Mm.
I think that, especially when I think about my experience as a kid, I was the youngest. I have an older brother. And I was the type of kid that I wanted to, I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be a problem. I wanted to, be the good kid. And so to admit that I was struggling was a hard thing to do. And that's understandable, but I think it's just so important for us to just spread this message to everyone, and especially if you're someone who is works with young people. It's okay to not be okay. It is okay to need support. We all need support at some point or another, in whatever shape or form that takes. But it is so okay, and it is, again, so brave to be the person that says, I need help and I want to find that help.
So before we get to our last question, we have a really good question in the chat. What are some signs that social media might be hurting your mental health? You got doom scrolling and things like that.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, I think that just checking in with yourself when you're using social media is so important. Again, I'm not a clinician, so this is just, my perspective or my opinion. But I personally, when I was using social media a lot more than I am now, would feel my mood deteriorating. And I wouldn't notice it immediately, right? Because you're doom scrolling, you're engaging with this content, and it's the dopamine and everything that's happening. And you kind of it's so easy to lose yourself in it. I mean, it's literally created to be addictive. So recognizing that, and I think a lot of mental health is about being intentional and just being present and checking in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? How is this making me feel? Is scrolling through Facebook making me really feel really bad about myself because I'm comparing myself to everyone's, highlight reel on social media? Is it making me feel angry because there's maybe, some highly charged political conversation or something like that? Is it making me feel sad because I found myself, the algorithm is showing me all of these, puppy videos or something? I don't know, but it can be a lot of different things. But just checking in with yourself and saying, how is this actually making me feel right now? And if it's maybe you're recognizing that the emotion is not a positive one, finding ways to limit your time. So there are ways to set timers in your phone to where your phone will say no more Instagram for the day. I have those in my phone. Or deleting the app if it's really not serving you. I think that it's important to just know that and to be okay with the fact that we don't have to have every social media platform. So again, that's just my opinion, but I think that just being aware of how things are making you feel is step one.
Yeah, I have friends that have had to delete Facebook because the politics have gotten to be too much, and folks have gotten so nasty, and they've lost friends and family members because they've been on opposite sides of issues, and or folks spend too much time. Like you said, it is addictive. It could be that it's good. You're not seeing anything negative, but it's so good that you're not being productive. So now you're lost and you have to pull away from it. So there's so many different things, right? It's multi-layered, and it is such a trap, right? But then it's a great way to keep in touch with friends and family. And so I use
for businesses. Yep, it can be absolutely. There are a lot of benefits to it, just like anything else. I mean, there are pros and cons. It's a tool, but it's just important to know how is that tool making you feel, and just being realistic about it.
I love the timer. It's like, look, I'm going to give myself maybe an hour or 2 hours a day. Once that timer is up, it's done, right?
Done.
And many of us do it for our kids. So, my daughter she's got a timer. That phone shuts off at a certain time during the day, and there's certain apps you can have and there's certain apps you can't have, and that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Unless I get overridden by mom and grandma, but that's a whole other thing. So I can't win those battles. But man, we've had such a great time today. Our last question as we go out is, if someone is struggling right now, what's one small step they can take today?
Do you want to take that first?
Call somebody, go see somebody, do what you can to connect to people, share how you're feeling, any way that you can. Don't be alone.
Don't be alone. Connection. That's what it sounds like.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Connection. I know, again, broken record over here, but connection
but it's a good record.
It's everything. Yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's everything. And mental health, as far as like taking the first step, I think that's another thing, is just take the first step. Just do it. If you know that you're struggling, it can feel like a mountain to climb just to reach out and find somewhere to get support. But reaching out is 100% just taking that first step. It will all, go from there. But that first step it can be so hard. But just doing it, connect.
All right. Well, that is the final word. We want to thank our guest, Brittany Arbo from Charlie Health. Again, if you want to get in touch with her, brittany.arbo@charliehealth.com, 253-973-5597. This is a virtual option for mental health, IOP. This really takes away a lot of the excuses, a lot of the barriers. They partner. This is a continuum of care. This is a way through, a way forward. I believe that this is a huge solution that can be very beneficial for a lot of people, for a lot of ages. They accept many forms of healthcare. So please reach out, give her a call, see what they can do for you. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. So I hope that you find this helpful. Again, we ask that you like, subscribe, and share, especially share, because this information is so vital. And always, we want to extend our thanks to those that make this happen, which is the county, which is our prevention department, which is Laura and Deanne. So thank you again for making these things possible. Again, I'm in this world, right? We're a transportation provider where we run a podcast. We get this information out. I never heard of Charlie Health, right? And so when we're in it and we don't know, we don't know what we don't know. And so you are connecting pieces and being a part of putting the puzzle together. And it just goes to show how important it truly is. So again, we can't thank you enough for that. And so again, next month, we just want to let you know what is coming up. Ooh, I just lost my screen. You don't want to see that. That is horrible. What happened to my great little picture that I had for you? That's not great. All right. That's the picture right there. Again, the next podcast is June 26th, but it is going to be at Fairgrounds. So again, put it in your calendar. It's going to be on a Friday, not on a Thursday. Friday, June 26th. It's going to start at 12 p.m. at Fairgrounds at the Eagle's Nest. That's 1200 Northwest Fairgrounds Road in Bremerton. Bring your appetite. Bring a friend. Bring several friends. If you're having a meeting on those Fridays, go ahead and say, hey, we're going to have that meeting, but we're going to have it there. We're going to feed you. It's going to be very hearty. We're going to have a panel of lived experience and experts to come and share their information with us. So we do hope that you would join us. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us 360-990-6387. So for Brittany, for Laura, and Deanne in absence, I am Armand Cameron. This is The Conduit. As always, take care of yourself.